The laughter cuts through the summer air like broken glass. Marcus Whitfield freezes mid-bite, his burger suspended inches from his mouth. Around the checkered blanket, his family sits in dappled sunlight filtering through oak leaves, his parents, his brother, his wife. But it's Jennifer's voice that echoes now, high and bright with wine-loosened confidence. "Oh God, I shouldn't say this, but..." She giggles, touching his mother's arm conspiratorially. "Marcus is wonderful in every way except... you know, down there." Her eyes flick toward his brother, David, then away. "Not like some people." The air crystallizes. Birds stop singing. Marcus's father looks at his plate. His mother's smile freezes into something grotesque. David shifts uncomfortably, but there's something else in his expression: knowledge, guilt, confirmation. And Marcus understands, in that suspended moment before the world shatters, that he's been living inside a lie. Marcus Anthony Whitfield was born on September 14, 1985, in Hartford, Connecticut, to Robert and Catherine Whitfield. He'd grown up believing in certain fundamental truths: family was sacred, marriage was permanent, loyalty was non-negotiable. His father had taught him to build things with his hands: furniture, trust, relationships that lasted. His mother had taught him kindness, which some people called weakness but Marcus had always considered strength. At 38, he worked as a civil engineer for the city, designing bridges that connected separated places. The metaphor wasn't lost on him. He'd spent his life building connections, spanning gaps, creating structures that bore weight. Jennifer Marie Harrison, born March 22, 1987, in Boston, Massachusetts, had seemed like everything he'd been searching for when they met at a mutual friend's wedding 8 years ago. She was radiant, spontaneous where he was measured, full of laughter that felt like summer breaking through winter. She worked in marketing for a pharmaceutical company, creating narratives that sold hope in pill form. She was good at stories. They'd married quickly, too quickly, his mother had worried quietly, in a ceremony overlooking the Connecticut River. Jennifer had cried during her vows. Marcus remembered thinking her tears were joy. Now, he wondered what else they might have been. David Jonathan Whitfield, born November 3, 1983, was everything Marcus wasn't. Taller by 3 inches, broader in the shoulders, blessed with their father's easy charm and their mother's striking features. He worked in real estate, flipping houses, always chasing the next deal, the next rush. He'd never married, never settled, moved through relationships like someone afraid to stop moving long enough to be caught. Growing up, Marcus had worshipped David. They'd shared a room until Marcus was 12, whispered secrets in the dark, built forts from blankets and defended imaginary kingdoms. But somewhere along the way, maybe when David went to college and discovered he could be someone else, someone bigger, the gap between them had widened. The family picnic had been their mother's idea. Catherine believed in traditions with religious fervor: Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, summer picnics in Riverside Park where they played as children. "Family is what survives when everything else fails," she'd say, as if repetition could make it true. The Whitfield family had roots in Hartford going back 4 generations. Robert's grandfather had worked in the Colt Firearms Factory, built a modest life from metal and precision. That history of making things, of craftsmanship and reliability, had filtered down through the bloodline like genetic code. Robert himself had run a small construction company before retiring, building homes throughout the Connecticut suburbs during the boom years. He'd taught both sons the trade, though only Marcus had inherited the patience for it. David preferred the flash of the sale, the performance of persuasion. Marcus had met Jennifer at a wedding where David was supposed to be his +1 but had cancelled at the last minute, some business opportunity in Providence. Marcus had gone alone, uncomfortable in his suit, nursing a beer by the bar when Jennifer had appeared beside him. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she'd said. "I would be," he'd admitted. "But my friend would kill me if I didn't show." She'd laughed, and something in that laugh had hooked him. She'd seemed genuinely interested in his work, his quiet life, his methodical approach to the world. She'd called him steady, and he'd heard it as a compliment. Their courtship had been brief but intense. Jennifer had a way of making him feel like the center of the universe, like his quietness was depth rather than absence. She'd brought color into his careful world. When he proposed after 6 months, she'd said yes immediately, crying those same mysterious tears. The wedding was beautiful. David had been his best man, given a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. My little brother, he'd said, always knew what he wanted. Always build things to last. Marcus, you found your foundation. Build something beautiful. Marcus had believed him. Had believed in the whole shining promise of it. The first year of marriage had been good. They'd bought a small colonial in West Hartford, close to the park, with a yard big enough for the family Marcus imagined they'd build. Jennifer had seemed happy, had talked about children, about growing old together, about building the kind of family that survived everything. But subtly, gradually, things had shifted. Jennifer started working late more often. She became protective of her phone, tilting it away when messages arrived. She'd begun commenting more on his body, his habits, comparing him to men on television, to friends' husbands, always couched in jokes but edged with something sharper. And David had started coming around more. Helping with projects around the house. Staying for dinner. Becoming a fixture in their life in a way that had seemed natural at first, brothers staying close, family remaining tight, but had begun to feel different. Intrusive. Present in a way that created displacement rather than addition. Marcus had noticed glances he'd told himself he was imagining. Laughter that lasted too long over jokes that weren't that funny. The way Jennifer dressed differently when David was coming over. The way David's hand lingered on her shoulder when he greeted her. He'd pushed the thoughts down. Told himself his mind was creating problems where none existed. Jealousy was unworthy. Trust was everything. And family was sacred. 3 months before the picnic, Marcus had come home early from a site inspection to find David's truck in the driveway. He'd felt a spike of something, not quite suspicion, not quite fear, but something adjacent to both, before dismissing it. David was helping install new shelving in the garage. They'd planned it. But the garage was empty. The house was quiet. Marcus had stood in the kitchen, listening to the silence, before calling out. Jennifer had appeared from upstairs, slightly flushed, hair disheveled. You're home early, she'd said. Not welcoming. Observational. Where's David? He left about 20 minutes ago. We finished shelving. But the tools were still out. The shelves were half installed. And there was something in her eyes he couldn't read. 2 months before the picnic, Marcus had borrowed Jennifer's laptop when his died during a work-from-home day. She'd left it open on the kitchen table. He wasn't snooping, not consciously, but a message notification had appeared at the top of the screen. David, still thinking about yesterday. When can we, asterisk. The preview cut off. Marcus had stared at those words, feeling ice crystallize in his chest. He'd reached for the laptop, then stopped. Trust. He'd chosen trust. But the ice remained, spreading slowly through his certainty like frost through water. 6 weeks before the picnic, they'd all gone out to dinner, Marcus, Jennifer, David, and David's date of the month, a woman whose name Marcus immediately forgot. David had been animated, charming, telling stories that had the whole table laughing. But Marcus had noticed the way David's foot had touched Jennifer's under the table. Had seen Jennifer's barely perceptible startle, then her failure to move away. He'd said nothing. Told himself he was seeing ghosts. But the ghosts were getting more solid. 4 weeks before the picnic, Jennifer had stopped initiating sex. Had started finding reasons, headaches, exhaustion, stress. And when they did make love, she seemed elsewhere, going through motions, her mind clearly occupied by something or someone distant. Is everything okay? He'd asked one night, lying beside her in the dark. "Fine," she'd said. "Just work stress." But she'd turned away from him, creating distance in their bed. 2 weeks before the picnic, Marcus had done something he'd sworn he'd never do. He'd looked at Jennifer's phone while she was in the shower. His hands had trembled. His heart had hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. The messages with David were deleted. All of them. But the deletion itself was the evidence. You don't erase innocence. The night before the picnic, Marcus had lain awake, listening to Jennifer breathe beside him, and had felt like a stranger in his own life. Everything familiar had become foreign. Every certainty had developed cracks. He was living in a structure he'd built himself, and he could feel it settling, shifting, preparing to collapse. The picnic begins innocently. Catherine has prepared too much food, as always: fried chicken, potato salad, watermelon, her famous apple pie. Robert sets up the portable grill for burgers and hot dogs. The park is crowded with other families, other versions of the American dream, spreading across the grass under the patient trees. Jennifer brings wine, too much wine, and Marcus notices how quickly she refills her glass. David arrives late, all apologies and smiles, carrying a cooler of craft beer and wearing a shirt that shows off the physique he maintains with religious dedication to the gym. The afternoon unfolds with determined normalcy. They throw a frisbee. They eat. They laugh at Robert's terrible dad jokes. Catherine asks about grandchildren with the persistence of water-wearing stone, and Jennifer deflects with practiced ease while Marcus feels the question like a blade. The sun angles into late afternoon. The wine bottle empties. Jennifer's laughter gets louder, looser, edged with something reckless. She's sitting close to Catherine, playing the devoted daughter-in-law, but her eyes keep drifting to David, who's helping Robert with the grill. "You raised such different boys," Jennifer says, her words slightly slurred. "It's fascinating, really. Marcus is so steady. Reliable. Safe." Marcus hears the pause before safe, the weight she places on the word. "David's more." Jennifer gestures vaguely. "More everything, I guess." Catherine's smile tightens. "They're both wonderful in their own ways." "Oh, absolutely." Jennifer's hand on Catherine's arm. "Marcus is wonderful. Just, you know." She leans in, voice dropping to a stage whisper that carries perfectly to where Marcus sits. "Between us girls, he's perfect except for one tiny little problem. The world narrows. Marcus's vision tunnels. He can hear his own heartbeat in his ears." "Jennifer," Catherine says quietly. "Warning." But Jennifer is drunk and reckless and past the point of stopping. "I mean, I shouldn't compare, but..." Her eyes find David now, bold and unmistakable. Some men are just blessed differently. The silence that follows is absolute. Even the other families seem to stop their chatter. Even the birds hold their breath. Marcus sees his father's face drain of color. Sees his mother's expression crumble. Sees David's face, and there it is, finally visible: guilt, confirmation, and something worse. Satisfaction. "What?" Marcus says quietly, each word distinct. "Did you just say?" Jennifer's face registers delayed panic. Her hand flies to her mouth. "Oh God, Marcus, I didn't mean, I was joking, You weren't joking." Marcus stands. His legs are distant things, barely connected. "You were telling the truth." Marcus drives. He doesn't know where he's going. His hands grip the wheel with white-knuckled intensity while his mind races through every moment of the past 2 years, recontextualizing, recalibrating, seeing everything through new, devastating clarity. Every late night David helped with house projects. Every dinner where they sat too close. Every time Marcus had felt like he was missing something, some subtext to a conversation, some joke he wasn't included in. He hadn't been paranoid. He'd been blind. He ends up at their house. His house, though it doesn't feel like his anymore. Everything looks the same but means something different. He stands in the living room where David and Jennifer had sat together countless times, and he can see them now with horrible clarity. The laptop sits on the coffee table. Marcus opens it. Jennifer never changed her password. He'd always thought that meant trust. Now he understands it meant confidence that he'd never look. The deleted messages with David aren't truly deleted. Marcus finds them in the cloud backup that Jennifer doesn't know about, the automatic one her phone does every night. The first message is from 14 months ago. Asterisk, can't stop thinking about this morning. Asterisk. Morning. While Marcus was at work. In this house. In his bed. He reads further, though every word is acid. They're careful, using vague language, but the meaning is clear. It started as an emotional affair, all those lunches and coffee meetings they claimed were just family staying close. Then physical. Then regular. Then something Jennifer called, the only time I feel really alive. There's a photo. Marcus almost doesn't open it, but he needs to see. Needs the full horror of it. It's Jennifer in David's bed. Marcus recognizes the headboard from when he helped David move into his apartment. She's wearing lingerie Marcus has never seen. She's looking at the camera like she's never looked at Marcus. Hungry. Unrestrained. Real. The caption. Asterisk, your little brother could never make me feel like this. Asterisk. Marcus closes the laptop. His hands are steady now. The shaking has stopped. Something cold and clear has settled into his chest, replacing the chaos with crystalline purpose. He opens his own laptop. Starts documenting. Screenshots every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. Emails them to himself, to his personal attorney, a college friend who'd helped with their house purchase, with a subject line, asterisk, for divorce proceedings. Asterisk. Then he goes to the garage. To the tools his father taught him to use. To the materials he's accumulated for projects never started. And he begins to plan. Marcus spends 3 days in a hotel, a chain place off the highway where no one knows him. He doesn't call. Doesn't respond to Jennifer's increasingly frantic messages, her voicemails that progress from apologetic to defensive to angry. He sits on the edge of the bed and remembers a book his father had given him in high school. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic Emperor. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He'd been named for that emperor. His father's quiet ambition for him. To be thoughtful, disciplined, just. Marcus opens the book now, the spine cracked from his father's previous reading. He finds the passage he needs. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Asterisk. The betrayal isn't the end. It's the transformation. The fire that burns away everything weak, everything trusting, everything that made him vulnerable. He thinks of his father's lessons in construction. You can't build on a cracked foundation. You have to tear it down, clear it away, start from solid ground. For 3 days, Marcus eats sparingly. Sleeps little. Exercises until his body screams. Clears his mind of everything except purpose. He's not angry anymore. Anger is chaos. He's become something colder, more terrible, he's become certain. He visits his lawyer. Presents the evidence with clinical precision. His lawyer, Tom Bradford, whistles low. This is comprehensive, Tom says. And in Connecticut, we're a no-fault state, but adultery can still affect asset division. Especially with evidence this clear. You could take her to the cleaners. I want the house, Marcus says. And I want it public. No sealed records. I want everyone to know. Tom looks at him carefully. That's vindictive, Marcus. Not like you. The old Marcus is dead, Marcus says. He was built on lies. I'm building something new. Something that lasts. He goes to his parents' house. His father opens the door, and something in Marcus's face makes Robert step back. David's not here, Robert says quietly. Good. I need to talk to you both. They sit in the living room where Marcus had played as a child. Where he'd believed in family, in loyalty, in the fundamental goodness of the people you loved. I want you to know, Marcus says, that I love you both. That this isn't your fault. But I'm removing David from my life. Completely. And I need you to understand that this isn't negotiable. Catherine's eyes fill with tears. Marcus, he's your brother. Family means forgiveness. No, Marcus says, and his voice is stone. Family means loyalty. Family means protecting, not destroying. David isn't my family. He's a stranger wearing a familiar face. 2 weeks later, Marcus is ready. He's filed for divorce. He's moved his essential belongings out of the house. He's opened new bank accounts. He's changed passwords, secured assets, built walls where there used to be doors. Jennifer has tried everything. Tears, anger, pleading, bargaining. She shows up at his hotel. He doesn't open the door. She calls from her mother's phone. He blocks it. She sends emails dissecting their relationship, explaining how lonely she was, how Marcus never really saw her, how it just happened. Marcus deletes them unread. Her explanations are noise. Her feelings are irrelevant. She betrayed him. The why doesn't matter. David tries to, in his way. Leaves messages that start apologetic and end defensive. You were never really there for her, Marcus. You were always at work, always distracted. She needed someone. Marcus saves these messages too. Evidence of character. Proof of the kind of man his brother became. The night before the confrontation, Marcus can't sleep. He lies in the hotel bed and watches shadows move across the ceiling. He thinks about the boy he was, worshipping his older brother. Thinks about the man he became, building bridges and believing in foundations. Thinks about the man he is now, hardened and certain and alone. He remembers the last time he'd felt truly happy. It was the morning of the picnic, before everything shattered. He'd woken up beside Jennifer, sunlight streaming through their curtains, and had felt grateful. For his wife, his family, his simple life. That gratitude had been built on lies. That happiness had been ignorance. The obstacle becomes the way, Marcus whispers to the ceiling. What stands in the way becomes the way. He rises before dawn. Showers, dresses carefully. A suit, though he rarely wears them. Armor for what comes next. He drives to the house as the sun breaks the horizon. Jennifer's car is in the driveway. She's been living there alone, waiting. The house he'd thought they'd fill with children sits empty except for her regrets. Marcus sits in his truck, engine running, watching the windows. He can see movement inside. Jennifer awake, probably hoping he's come to talk, to forgive, to rebuild. He turns off the engine. Checks his phone. The process server will arrive in 1 hour to deliver the divorce papers with the full evidence packet attached. By noon, her lawyer will have it. By evening, Jennifer will understand how thoroughly, how methodically, Marcus has dismantled their life. But first, he needs to face her. Not for closure. Closure is a myth. For completion. For the final brick in the wall he's building between who he was and who he's become. Jennifer opens the door before he knocks. She's in her bathrobe, hair uncombed, eyes swollen from crying. She looks devastated, and Marcus feels nothing. You came, she says, and there's desperate hope in her voice. We need to talk. She steps aside. The house smells like coffee and unwashed dishes. Like abandonment. Marcus stays standing in the entryway, refusing to go deeper, refusing to make this comfortable. Marcus, please, Jennifer starts. I know what I did was unforgivable, but if you'll just let me explain. 14 months, Marcus says. You fucked my brother for 14 months in our bed while I was working to pay for this house. While I was planning our future. While I was loving you. She flinches like he's hit her. Don't call it that. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Jennifer? Tell me. Use your marketing skills. Sell me the narrative. It was a mistake that got out of control. I never meant for it to happen. David was just there, and you were always working, and I was lonely. Stop. Marcus holds up his hand. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your loneliness. I care about what you destroyed. I love you, she says, and she's crying now. I know I fucked up, I know I hurt you, but I love you. We can rebuild. We can start over. I'll cut David off completely. I'll do whatever it takes. You love me. Marcus tastes the words. You loved me while you were texting my brother about how much better he was. You loved me while you were buying lingerie for him. You loved me while you were making jokes about my body to my family. I was drunk. I didn't mean. You meant every word. Drunk words are sober thoughts. You finally told the truth. Jennifer sinks onto the stairs, folding in on herself. What do you want from me? You want me to beg? I'm begging. You want me to grovel? I'm groveling. Just tell me what you need. I need you to understand, Marcus says, and his voice is so cold it could freeze blood, that you don't get to decide how this ends. You had power once. You had my love, my trust, my future. You gambled it all for cheap thrills with my brother. And you lost. So this is revenge. She looks up, anger finally cutting through the tears. You're going to destroy me. That's very stoic of you, Marcus. Very evolved. This isn't revenge. Revenge is emotional. This is justice. There are consequences to choices. You chose this. David chose it too. Why aren't you confronting him? I will. Marcus pulls out his phone, pulls up the evidence file. But you first. Because you're the one who promised me forever. You're the one who stood in front of everyone we knew and vowed fidelity. David's a piece of shit, but he never promised me anything. You did. He hands her the phone. Lets her scroll through the screenshots, the photos, the messages she thought were deleted. Her face drains of color. You're going to show these to people. Your lawyer will have them in an hour. The divorce filing is uncontested because I have proof of adultery. In Connecticut, that affects asset division. You'll get less than nothing. And the proceedings aren't sealed. Anyone who wants to see will see. You're going to publicly humiliate me. No. You already did that. At the picnic, remember? I'm just making sure the whole truth comes out. Not just the jokes, but the betrayal behind them. Jennifer stands, and for a moment Marcus sees a flash of the woman he'd married. Not soft, not apologetic. Angry. Real. You self-righteous prick, she says. You were never really present. You loved your work more than me. You loved your perfect little stoic philosophy more than me. You loved the idea of me more than the actual person. So yeah, I found someone who actually wanted me. Then you should have divorced me first, Marcus says. That's what adults do. What brave people do. But you're neither. You're a coward who wanted stability and passion, marriage and affair, who wanted everything and deserved nothing. Get out of my house. Your house. Marcus almost smiles. Read the filing when it arrives. This house is in my name. My credit bought it. My income maintains it. You'll have 30 days to vacate. Should be plenty of time to move in with David. I'm sure his apartment's big enough for all your betrayals. He turns to leave, then stops. One more thing. At the picnic, you asked if I'd forgiven you. You remember? Right before you made that joke. Jennifer nods, silent. I hadn't forgiven you because I didn't know yet what you'd done. But now I do. And no, Jennifer. I'll never forgive you. Not because I'm holding on to anger, but because forgiveness would require me to care. And I don't. You're already forgotten. He walks out into the morning sun, leaving her sobbing in the doorway of the house that's no longer hers, the marriage that's already over, the future she destroyed. David gets his confrontation too, though it's shorter. More physical. Marcus catches him at his apartment, and when David opens the door with his typical cocky smile, Marcus breaks his nose with one perfect punch. We're done, Marcus says while David staggers, blood pouring. Don't contact me. Don't contact Mom and Dad through me. If I see you at family events, I'll leave. You're dead to me. David doesn't press charges. Guilt, maybe. Or the knowledge that the evidence would come out in court. The divorce finalizes in 6 months. Connecticut has mandatory waiting periods, but with Jennifer's adultery documented so thoroughly, the asset division goes Marcus's way. He keeps the house, the savings, everything they'd built together. Jennifer gets her car and her guilt. His parents struggle. Catherine keeps trying to arrange reconciliation dinners, family therapy, anything to fix the broken pieces. But Marcus is immovable. He sees his parents alone, never at family events. When they bring up David, he changes the subject. When they push, he leaves. Robert understands better. He'd built things too, knew about foundations and structural integrity. Some damage can't be repaired, he tells Catherine one night, though Marcus won't know this until later. You can only rebuild from scratch. Jennifer moves in with David, which surprises no one. They last 8 months before imploding. Turns out betrayal isn't a strong foundation for a relationship. She moves back to Boston, posts increasingly desperate social media updates about finding herself. Marcus unfriends her, blocks her, erases her from his digital life with the same methodical precision he'd used to document her betrayal. Work becomes his sanctuary. He throws himself into increasingly complex projects. Designs a bridge that wins a state engineering award. Gets promoted. Buys a smaller house closer to the city, fills it with nothing but essentials. Lives like a monk, disciplined and alone. People worry. His friends stage an intervention, tell him he needs to start living again. He smiles, thanks them, and continues exactly as before. 2 years after the picnic, Marcus stands on the bridge he designed, watching the Connecticut River flow beneath. It's dawn, his favorite time. The world is quiet, empty of people and their complications. He thinks about Stoicism often now. About Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who'd lost children, betrayed by friends, ruled during plague and war, yet maintained his center. His discipline. His clarity. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Jennifer and David destroyed his marriage, his family, his trust. But they didn't destroy him. They refined him. Burned away everything soft, everything vulnerable, everything that had made him easy to hurt. Is he happier? No. Happiness is for people who trust the world. Marcus is something else now. Certain. Self-contained. Complete. He dates occasionally, careful women who sense something armored in him and either run or stay at a distance. He doesn't mind. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and he's done being vulnerable. His mother cries sometimes when they have dinner. I miss my son, she says. You're here, but you're not here. I'm exactly here, Marcus tells her. More present than I've ever been. You just missed the version of me that was easier to hurt. He sees David once, across a restaurant. Their eyes meet. David looks away first, and Marcus feels nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger. Nothing. David is irrelevant. A stranger who looks like someone Marcus used to know. Late at night, sometimes, Marcus lies in his empty bed and remembers the morning of the picnic. The last moment of innocence. He'd been happy then, in his ignorance. Would he choose to go back, to unknow what he knows, to return to that simpler pain? No. Because that happiness had been built on lies. And Marcus doesn't build on false foundations anymore. If he builds anything again, a relationship, a family, a future, it will be on stone. In truth. On certainty that can bear weight. Until then, he stands alone. Stoic in the truest sense. Not unfeeling, but undestroyed. Not invulnerable, but undefeated. The bridge beneath him will last 100 years. He built it to endure. And he's rebuilding himself the same way, piece by piece, brick by brick, until he's something that can survive anything. Even the truth. So here's what I want to know from you. What would you do in Marcus's position? Could you forgive a betrayal that deep, that calculated, that extended? Would you choose revenge, or would you let it go? Could you sit across from your brother at Christmas dinner and pretend nothing happened, for your mother's sake? And what about Jennifer? Does she deserve empathy for her loneliness, or is betrayal simply unforgivable regardless of the why? Some people think Marcus went too far. That public humiliation and permanent family severing is excessive. That forgiveness is strength and his refusal makes him weak. Others think he didn't go far enough. That people like Jennifer and David deserve everything they get. Where do you land? How do you rebuild after the foundation crumbles? Do you start fresh, or do you repair the cracks and hope they hold? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be honest. Be raw. Because these questions matter. They're not about Marcus, they're about what you do when the worst happens. When the people you trust most become strangers. When the life you built reveals itself as an illusion. Hit that like button if this story moved you. Subscribe if you want more stories that don't shy away from hard truths. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been betrayed, or who's thinking about betraying, or who's just trying to understand how people survive when everything falls apart. Because survival isn't about being unbroken. It's about what you build from the pieces. See you in the next one.